if you're not really clear on where you're headed, or you've got so many ideas or so many goals or so many projects that you've got to do, you don't know where to start. So you do a little bit of one bit and you do a little bit of another bit and you just have this scattered mess. Whereas if you actually have a plan, you can focus that energy, your team, everyone can be focused on that one goal, and you actually get this achieved, or the success of it becomes so much faster because you're all focusing on the one point. Whereas if it's scattered, then everyone's energies, everyone's resources is all over the place. So having that one point of reference for everyone, you can achieve so much more.
Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place. G'day everyone. I hope this finds you incredibly well and enjoying this season. We're certainly having a positive start and a forgiving, warm, wet lead-in to winter, which we're really enjoying. I hope you're all very well. In this interview, I want to explore a couple of constructs that we coach around, and I've called on two of our business coaches in Elle, Webb and Kerrie Smith to join me. In recent podcasts with Mark Ferguson from Next Gen Agri, and with Andy Fenton around business restructuring and wealth creation, and other external interviews, there's been a common theme that having a clear and common direction as a farming family is just so important to driving any business forward. And what I thought I'd do is touch base with Elle and with Kerrie and just reflect for a little while on the impact that having a clear common goal and a really tight 2-page strategic plan has on their businesses, but also on the FOA members that they coach. So thank you, Elle and Kerrie, for joining us. Just to introduce Elle first. Elle Webb farms with her husband, Tom, and 2 beautiful daughters on a family livestock enterprise just near Albury in New South Wales. Tom and Elle are both graduates of our program and now valued members of our alumni. And Elle is a business coach with FOA. Really does bring a strong skill set over and above her farm business skill set to the table. She has a background in nutrition and dietetics, leadership management and coaching, and Elle is passionate about helping people clarify their goals, develop strong leadership skills, and create meaningful progress in their lives. She values genuine connection and is energized by supporting others on their growth journeys. Now, Kerrie Smith has been part of the FOA community with her husband, Andrew, for many years, valued members of our alumni and graduates of Platinum Mastermind. Kerrie is also a qualified secondary teacher and expert in learning support. She has focused on well-being, student well-being for many years. And in addition to being a business coach with us, she's part of our well-being team. Her and her husband, Smithy, and their farm team farm an incredible project near Cowra in southern New South Wales. Kerrie is also very passionate about helping people build confidence, strengthen well-being, and make meaningful action towards positive strategic goals. So thank you, Kerrie and Elle, for joining us. Let's get into this important conversation. Well, Kerrie, it's great to have you join us on Profitable Farmer. Thank you both so much for your time. Elle, how are you?
I'm really well, thanks, Hutch. Thanks for having me.
Kerrie, how are things at Cowra and how are you and Smithy?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. We're having an awesome season and looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, it's really exciting to think that across sort of central and southern New South Wales that we're having such a positive start. It's great. Really appreciate both of your time. To kick us off, Elle, would you mind just telling us a bit about your farm and also perhaps a little bit about your journey with FOA?
Sure. We're based just outside Albury, so on the eastern side. And we've got a breeding herd of Angus cross cattle, as well as we've still got some sheep left over, although our core focus at the moment is cattle. So it's been nice to get that clarity. We've been in the PM program since 2021, Platinum Mastermind program with Farm Owners Academy. And yeah, we've done 3 years in the Platinum Mastermind program and now in the alumni program, which has been really brilliant. Lots of growth from a personal perspective and lots more clarity from a business perspective, which is brilliant.
Thanks, Elle. And we absolutely love having you part of our coaching team and adding so much value back to our members. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel extremely privileged to be doing this work now and learn so much in my job, which is brilliant.
Thanks, Elle. And Kerrie, would you mind just introducing yourself and likewise the impact that you're having with our members, both through coaching and by being part of our wellbeing team? It's second to none, Kerrie. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a real privilege to be able to be part of people's lives and to be there to assist and guide people having their dreams come true. It's amazing.
So tell us about your farm at Kerrie.
So we produce prime lamb and we also have a contract with adjustment cattle. So we're able to utilise the cattle for getting prime pastures for our lambs that grow nice and fat, and we send them all off to Coles.
Perfect, Kerrie. Thank you. So reflecting back when you both started with FOA, Kerrie, you first, did you have a documented plan and a clear common direction? And perhaps what would you give what you had then out of 10?
It would probably be a 0. We didn't have a plan at all. We just were doing what we loved and that was it. But we didn't really have any direction where we were taking it, what we were doing, how we were doing it. We just went through year by year, season by season, and just rolled with the punches. So then our kids started to get interested in the farming and started getting involved. And we thought, well, we need to really make a plan, and just enjoying what we're doing, there's a little bit more that we need. And that's when sort of we joined FOA, Farm Owners Academy, to help us with that planning process. And we have learnt a lot, and now we wouldn't yet operate without it.
Maybe tell me a bit more, if you would, Kerrie, about what life looked like back then. If you didn't have a clear documented plan, and I guess that's where I'd really like for this conversation to focus. What was life like, and how were decisions made, and how effective were you from a leadership perspective in retrospect?
Well, it was very much a reactive process that we went in terms of decision making. There was no strategic planning or no forward thinking. It was all reaction. It was pretty chaotic, I would say. There was disorganisation. We didn't have a team at the time. It was just, fly by the seat of your pants type outfit. So it wasn't very professional. And we started to notice that some of our contractors weren't as reliable. And it's because we weren't presenting a professional outfit. So there was a lot of perfectionism. There was a lot of self-sabotage. There was a lot of not making decisions because it was too hard because we didn't know where we're going. So it was, complete chaos.
Thanks for your openness, Kerrie. I think you and Smithy make just such a great example of being an aligned family leadership team and now having a kick-ass 2-page plan that focuses you, your team, your advisors, and that, as you mentioned just before we hit record, kind of still motivates you. Do you mind just telling us about the plan you have now, how it's helped, and then also what are you most proud of having achieved over the years that you've been part of FOA?
So having a plan allowed us to see the future. So as I was saying, we were just going year by year, season by season, and we just dealt with whatever came our way. But actually having a plan and having a long-term plan, we were able to see what life could look like, say, in 10 years' time, and being able to take small decisions, small steps to get ourselves there. And having that precise plan, and it changes regularly. I mean, we're going through a business change a business model change at the moment. However, it gets you out of bed. So when you get challenged, you have a look at this business plan. You go, this is why I'm doing this. This is my purpose. So being really clear on the why is really important, especially when you're getting challenged. And we've certainly been challenged recently with seasons and economical challenges worldwide, government policies, all those type of things get thrown at us. Yet if we're really clear on the why we're getting out of bed, why are we doing this? Why do we love farming? Why do we love producing this beautiful food for ourselves and the world? So having that plan there and reminding us of why we're doing it is so, so important. And then having the simple steps, we keep on asking ourselves, what's our next step? What's our next step? And it's actually laid out for us. We may not know what step 25 is, and that's okay, but we know what to do next to move us forward towards our goals.
Thanks, Kerrie. And what are you most proud of having achieved over the journey?
So we've been able to start from leasing a property to now owning properties and buying more properties and leasing more properties, but also running a professional business. So our kids actually want to be part of our business now. It's not just a given. They want to be part of it and they want to bring something towards it. So we've got real clarity, not only with Andrew and myself, but also with our kids and with our family. And we all are heading towards a common goal, which is really exciting. So we have only just started because both of our kids are coming on board in the business very soon, and I can't wait to see where we're going. So it's teamwork. It's being able to work together for a common goal. That's the exciting part.
Amazing, Kerrie. Well done. And I know you leaning into the business and leading a lot of what you've just described is a key reason why your family and your business has achieved all that it has. So congratulations and thank you. Elle, what about for you? How do you describe where you were? What would you give the original or where you were at then out of 10 in terms of having a clear plan? And what did life look like back then?
Well, a bit like Kerrie, 0, like there wasn't a business plan in terms of strategic direction. I actually wasn't involved in the farm business before starting Farm Owners Academy. So it was actually a brilliant opportunity for me to become involved and also see how my skills from outside the farm and in working in healthcare management and leadership roles could translate into the business. But probably prior to that, I couldn't see how that could be the case necessarily. So yeah, it was definitely a 0 out of 10 to start with, although I don't want to throw my husband and my father-in-law too much under the bus without them here to protect themselves.
But they might have had a plan.
Yes, 100%.
You feel like it was in their head?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, to be honest, Tom had come home and he'd been doing a lot of learning and, Mike was in the mentoring role and that was appropriate for that period of time, but he was wanting some more clarity of direction. And, that was really the impetus to starting with Farm Owners Academy.
And Elle, what about now?
Yeah, I think, as I was saying before we jumped on, it probably took us until year 4 to get real clarity, but throughout the 3-year journey in the Platinum Mastermind program, I think we probably had like 35 or 40 iterations of our business plan or clarity action plan that we call it. And yeah, now we've got a plan that is simple and clear and gives us direction and we're all on the same page. And just to look at it, it's easy to know where we're going.
Perfect. Elle, and likewise, what are you most proud of with Tom about what you've achieved over the 4 years?
I think real alignment together and for us really having a plan that it's our business plan for our farm, but it really captures where we're going as a couple and as a family unit and considers then future options for our kids as well.
So, Elle, I think it's a really important point that you make. I often say that if a plan is inside my head, no one can help me make it happen. And I think there's a lot of farmers and farm owners out there that are operating with a really strong plan, but it's in our head. And if 2 or 3 or 4 family members have a plan and each of them have it in their head, then there's really very little chance, isn't there, that that's going to be the same plan and that they are going to be on the same page. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on who the family members are, there might be multiple families as part of that. And the plan needs to consider what people's personal goals and family goals are and allow them to achieve them as well.
Yep. So I also touch on at top producers that I reckon there's 4 types of plans. There's the plan that the agronomist might give us around what needs to happen in the paddocks. There's the one that's in my head. There's the one that I got my uni student son or daughter to write with me 15 years ago that's now collecting dust in the cupboard and hasn't actually done anything for us. Might have got us a loan a while ago. And then there's the one that we advocate, which is a really concise 2-page plan that is live and agile and changeable and actionable. What would your comment be, Kerrie, around the strength of that 2-page plan for its simplicity?
That's probably the key. It's simple, so it's easy to see. So you can bring it up when you're having your team meetings. You can bring it up when you're having a family discussion. You can bring it up when you're speaking to all your consultants. It's there. It's clear. It's concise. Yet it gives you the crux of the why, but it also gives you the next steps. So it breaks it down not only as a 10-year plan, so the ultimate goal that you're heading towards, and then you break it down into, say, 3 years. And then you've got 3 sets of 3 years to achieve those 10 goals, those year 10 goals. And then you break those 3-year goals down into 12-month goals. And then you even break it down even further into what are we doing next quarter. So it actually gives you a really clear plan. So when you actually have a look at it, you just can really focus on what are we doing in the next 3 months, the next quarter, knowing fully well that you're actually working on your long-term plans. So that's what I love about it. It's so clear and concise, and you can actually see the path you're going, but you just have to focus on what's happening in the next quarter.
I love that it's goals-based, Kerrie. And as you said right at the start, you don't need to know what's going to happen 4 years from now because you can worry about that when you plan that year. But it is all in line with a longer-term goal. So we'll explore that more as we progress. Elle, I think you've onboarded a host of new members recently and you've started working with some new members. What would your comment be, having kicked them off and moved through alignment meetings with them? What would you say the quality of the plans are that you're seeing farming families start with when they start with us?
It's a very, very few have a written down business plan. Don't get me wrong. There is the superstars. Like I have some members who did a course with Farm Owners Academy 3 years ago, and they've been using our templates since then. And so they came with their full plan and been using that. And obviously getting into implementation in Platinum Mastermind has been, really straightforward. But for most members, they don't have a written down plan. And so that's part of our onboarding process, is sort of understanding, where they're at, what's in their head. But then there's obviously a whole host of work that they do to get even clearer on where they're at and where they're headed as well.
And Elle, what can go wrong or what plays out for farming families in your experience if they are operating with no plan or that plan that is only in their heads?
Yeah, well, I think it can manifest in different ways, but, we are dealing with family businesses here and different individuals with different ideas and aspirations often. And so the plans that are in the head don't always align. And so I think that is the key with the business plan, is having those conversations and actually making some business decisions about where we're headed and what makes the most sense for the business.
Thanks, Elle. Kerrie, what's your view on what can go wrong or what plays out for families that aren't aligned to a common direction?
That's a great question. There's a lot of things that could happen. Mostly it comes down to a communication breakdown. So if there isn't a plan that everyone is on the same page with, and there's, as Elle mentioned, there's no alignment, then what happens if there's an information gap? Then people will utilize their resources, their experiences, their story that they're telling themselves and fill that gap. So then when you actually get into a round table situation or even in the paddock, everyone's coming from a different angle and a different expectations. And so that just allows or creates quite a situation where it could be quite negative or quite destructive because people are coming from different angles. Whereas if there's a clear plan and everyone's aligned and on the same page, then there's no information gap. So then we don't have to fill it with our own thoughts and stories.
Kerrie, you talked about feeling like you were being reactive rather than proactive. I think that's one key construct. Another one I often see is you see people procrastinating, families being quite indecisive, moving quite slowly and being quite inefficient, the conversations being protracted, and as you say, there being conflict in and around them because there isn't a common goal that they've got motivated and focused around. So there can be lots of overwhelm and lots of confusion. Would you agree, Kerrie?
Absolutely. If you're not really clear on where you're headed, or you've got so many ideas or so many goals or so many things or so many projects that you've got to do, you don't know where to start. So you do a little bit of one bit and you do a little bit of another bit and you just have this scattered mess. Whereas if you actually have a plan, you can focus that energy, that your team, everyone can be focused on that one goal, and you actually get this achieved, or the success of it becomes so much faster because you're all focusing on the one point. Whereas if it's scattered, then everyone's energies, everyone's resources is all over the place. So having that one point of reference for everyone, you can achieve so much more.
Thank you. Yeah. So confusion can exist until clarity is clear, so it's so interesting, isn't it, to think, and we talk about slowing down to speed up. Elle, what do you think keeps people from actually getting a plan out of their head and onto paper?
I think there can be a few reasons, but I think sometimes they just don't have the template and haven't gone through that process. And it's something that perhaps the generations before them haven't done. And so it hasn't been modeled to them. So it can be really relieving for members when we introduce them to the business plan and they start developing their own business plan and having those conversations. It's all of a sudden out of the family dinner roundtable chat, and it's actually a business document that we are going to talk about. Well, what's going in this box? Like, what are we actually aiming for in 10 years' time?
Thanks, Elle. So just to speak to this, there are 5 key questions that a strategic plan needs to answer. And once we've done that, the outcome can be that we've got a really proactive, focused, engaged, and aligned farm and family team. And so just to go through these, and I'll ask you to write them down. So if you're in a driverless tractor or you've got a pen nearby, scratch these down as we go. Happy to share them in the show notes and share a template with you if you email us, and we'll include our email in the show notes as well. But the first question that any good plan needs to answer is, who are we? And ultimately, it needs to capture the 4 or 5 company standards that are the non-negotiable pillars that define who you are and kind of how you play. They're like core values, but they are absolute pillars or standards that become non-negotiables for the team. I think if the team can know that, then every decision can be based on those core company standards. Point 2 is, what do we do? And that's our core focus. And there's 3 questions that we need to answer in order to get really clear on our core focus. But once we're clear on our core focus, then again, that can govern so many decisions that we make and keep us from being distracted by so many things that might be bright and shiny pennies off to the side of the journey that we're on. So the 3 questions that core focus needs to answer is, what are we deeply passionate about? What drives our economic engine? And what can we be best in the world at? So just to give those to you again, what can we be best in the world at? What drives our economic engine? And what can we be deeply, or what are we deeply passionate about? So just to pause on this, we'll stop there for a moment. Kerrie, how do you help people get clear on their company standards and nail those 3 questions that help them define their core focus?
So company standards is a really interesting one because as you said, it's very similar to values. And everyone, when they first start going through this process, has aspirational company standards. So where they would like the business to be and how they would like to be operating, which is fantastic. Yet right now, I ask that question. So if I walked into your business now, would I see these things actually happening? Would I hear the language? Would I be able to see the the integrity or the neatness or the fun. What I actually see. So I can walk into your business and go, I can see your company standards. I can hear your company standards. I can feel your company standards. So once we've sort of had that conversation, it's like, well, this is where we'd like to be, which is great. So that helps us in the terms of the planning. Let's go back to where we're at right now. And this actually sets the expectations for all team members, for contractors, for anyone that steps into your business. This is how we expect you to conduct yourself. This is the language we expect you to use. This is how you look after our equipment, our machinery, etc. So it really gives you an expectation. It's so much easier to walk into a place when you're very clear on how you are to behave, how you are to speak, how to interact with whatever you're using the resources. It just gives you so much more clarity, and that's one less worry for everyone. So especially when you're starting in a new place, to have that information in front of you is so important. So that's probably where we start. Is like, if you were coming into a workplace right now, what would you like to see, hear and feel?
Thanks, Kerrie. A way that I love to do this is getting our members to write down all the things that really frustrate them about how teams play together or what's going wrong. And then your company standards become the 4 or 5 statements that drive that out. For us, 2 of ours here, absolute trust and honesty is the first one. And then real excellence and efficiency is our second one. And, that's 2 of our 5 pillars. But, when contractors, advisors and team and even the kids come home and they're pinned up, it just consciously and subconsciously focuses them that we want those 2 things as non-negotiables if you're going to play with us in our business. Elle, how do you help people navigate and get clear on company standards and then core focus?
Yeah, so we have some learning modules that the members work through, and there's some suggested values. And so often people start there and then tweak those as they become clearer. But some examples, like you've said, around what frustrates you, or alternatively, what is an example of something that went really well and what values were demonstrated there. And so, yeah, it's a really important team exercise to do, particularly for the key decision makers in the business, but then also for team members, talking about examples of living the values and what that actually looks like in the workplace as well.
Thanks, Elle. And I guess the other comment here is your company standards can be an extension of your family values, so that there's that real connection between what your family stands for and then how you want to play in the business that you run together. So absolutely, your company standards can be an extension of your family values, but really important to be clear on both. I think those core focus questions are really interesting. What are we passionate about? There's no point doing something or running an enterprise if you're not deeply passionate about it. I think it's been proven through our benchmarking and others that you can be top 10% farmer no matter what you happen to be growing in your paddocks. So don't try and pick the winning enterprise mix or the winning enterprise. If you're passionate about wool, do that. If you're passionate about meat, do that, or cropping. So don't try and pick the winner. Just be excellent at the one that you're in. But to define that for your family and your team and to go, yep, let's just be world-class wool producers on a local scale, that can be part of your core focus. That's one of the questions answered. And then what drives our economic engine speaks to the number. If there was just one number that your team focused in on nailing, what would it be? And so for a hotel or a motel, it's occupancy rate. But for that wool producer, it might be wool cut kilos per hectare or dollars profit per kilo wool or whatever. And if you can focus your team on the single number that if you nail that, it drives the profit and the return on assets managed metrics at a higher level, then again, it all helps focus all your key decisions as a family and a team on the pursuit of that. And why not have a lofty vision and goal around what can we be best in the world at? For me, Kerrie, and you talked about having a plan that still gets you out of bed and enrolls and inspires. That does that for me. Like if I'm a team member and I want to turn up for a company like Farm Owners Academy or others, and we want to be the best in the world at business coaching and education or wool production or whatever it is, for me, that's where if I'm clear on the values and the standards and I'm clear on that question and I'm clear on the number and I'm clear on what we're passionate about, then you're going to attract and retain people just for those statements. Is that a fair comment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's nothing more exciting. And if you have that very clear on what that number is, then you can start asking yourself some really good questions, as well as your consultants and all your team. What could we be doing to ensure that this happens? And that's when you can start focusing on those 1%ers, because you're starting to drill down and you're breaking it down into smaller steps. And that's where you can really start making changes one at a time.
Kerrie, you made a great point before, and even before we start getting into the goal setting component of the plan, how does having those two questions answered help an employed team get focus and support you in the attainment of your goals?
Well, once everyone is clear on where you're headed and what those goals are, then again, as I suggested, that everyone is focused on that and everyone is concentrating their energy. Anyway, everyone's having their thought processes. So, for example, I know a member who has a team member who joined the business purely because their economic engine was what they wanted to do. They loved what they wanted to do. And they've come on board that team because they want to be part of that. They want to be part of learning. They want to grow. And they go and do their own research. They go and do extra courses. They're so involved in that main goal, and they're learning themselves, but they want the business to become the best in the world. They want to be part of that. They want to get on the bus.
Elle, what's your comment on what do you see happen for families and teams when they get clear on just those two constructs?
Yeah, I think to Kerrie's point is everyone's brain is focusing on where you need to go. And so that think tank and mastermind capability that you're getting within decision makers, but also within your employees, and the ideas and initiative that are coming through, it's all heading in the direction that you want to go and in the direction that's going to, drive profit in your business because everyone's clear on that.
Yeah. I think too, for me, where we are commodity producers a lot of the time, this is the thing that can set us apart from every other farmer, because what we'll have here is unique for us. And just by definition, we'll attract the talent that is aligned and enrolled in how we want to play and where we want to focus. So two really simple statements that can do so much, I think. And for me, so many of those 50-page plans with their flash SWOT analysis and all the other constructs that fall in there, they miss these two really important pillars. So then we get into goal setting. And the third question that a good plan asks is, where are we off to? And so we talk about a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, which might be 30 or 50 or 100 years into the future. And it's got to be lofty and it's got to be enrolling and inspiring. And we've got to not know how we could possibly achieve it. It's got to stretch us beyond our current thinking. Then once we're clear on that, we can break that down into 10-year, 3-year and 1-year goals. But do you find, Kerrie, that farming families find it hard to think out 20, 30, 50, 80 years and get clear on what it is that they want their big, hairy, audacious goal to be?
Absolutely. That's probably one of the most difficult conversations we have in terms of, one, challenging and stretching themselves, but also it comes down to having faith and clarity and confidence in their business plan. So when we get that really clear and they can see the steps going forward, they're running a profitable business. They're making really good profits, and they've got a really good operating team. They've got systems in place. There's efficiencies everywhere. And we can have this conversation and then go, so you're making a really good profit. You've got a great team in place. Everything's systemized. You're efficient. What are you going to do with your time? And what are you going to do with that surplus money? This is exciting. And so, and I usually say, so, when you're on holidays or you're with someone and you're not on the farm, and you always have these ideas, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could? And of course, what you do is go, I'll just dismiss that because it's never going to happen. I usually say, well, bring that in, because now we've created an amazing business that gives you time, it gives you efficiency, and it gives you some really good financial stability. What could you do? This is actually now possible. And it's amazing once they actually see the plan in place and that it is possible, then those big, hairy, audacious goals drop in, because they can see that because they're so stable and they've got sustainability, that they can give back because they're going to have the time. It's so exciting.
Thanks, Kerrie. Elle, what's your comment on helping people set down a big, hairy, audacious goal?
Yeah, I think the best time is when you're off the farm. We really need to get ourselves away from our usual environment, outside of our usual communities where we, mindset-wise, seem to have so many boundaries about what's possible. And that's unfortunately often reinforced to us when we have conversations in these places as well. So like Kerrie said, on holidays is a great time. And, these are the times to ask, like, if you absolutely couldn't fail, what would 30 years' time look like if you knew you couldn't fail? Because it's often the how that gets in the way of people dreaming and not knowing the how. One thing that we do at Farm Owners is suggest to people, well, what if you 10 times your revenue? Just throwing out some suggestions of what that could look like. The other thing that we ask is, what would a freedom farm look like to you, where you had absolute choice in your business about what you did, when you did it, and how often you did it? So they can be some helpful places to start. And then once you sort of get used to being in that more of a creative space and thinking about things that didn't always seem possible, then you often tweak it along the journey.
Yeah, I think so often people's first attempt at a BHAG is small relative to the one they set down once they get into this rhythm and get a few wins, Kerrie, as you say. And Elle, picking up on your point, I think people massively underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years and then ridiculously overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year. But if we think about it, I'm 50 this year. I've got 30 or 40 years ahead of me to be part of whatever it is that we set down, maybe 20, 25 effective years. And then hopefully, we can see the next generation come through. We've all got all the time in the world to pursue whatever it is that we want. And if we think about where we were 25 and 30 and 35 and 40 years ago, a lot's been achieved in that time without a plan. If we can just let go of that construct of not having enough time, and Elle, to your point, it's really important when we're setting goals to not get caught up in how do we possibly get this done. It's a what question and a where question, not a how question. It's just, what do you want? When you're 80 and retiring and, you're on the golf course, what's the legacy that you want to have left behind, and how do we define that? And let's set down something. I think I love the concept that 80% of a massive goal is better than 100% of a small one. And so what encouragement do you have, Kerrie, to challenge people to set down a bigger goal than perhaps they might if they were limiting themselves in some way?
It's interesting when I have a look at people's business plan and they have a look at their BHAG, I actually challenge them and say, well, I think your BHAG is possibly your 10-year goals. So have a look at your business now. In 10 years' time, when we're generating this amount of revenue, you're generating this amount of profit, you've got this team. So what are you doing with this amazing business? And it's a foundation or a platform to springboard into something that you've always dreamt of, or created something within your family, or done something that you've always wanted to do that you've never thought about. But I always suggest that it's actually bigger than you. It's bigger than your business. It is your opportunity to be able to give back and have a sort of a ripple effect because you've created this amazing business.
Thanks, Kerrie. I think so often we think linearly, but businesses actually grow exponentially. If you look at it from an exponentiality kind of component, I think people can massively underestimate what's possible. So the way that I think about this is that if I go up on my back hill and I look out at the horizon, there's sort of 30 or 40 hills and, then a bit of a mountain range off in the ski fields. The BHAG's the big one at the back, but then we've got to come back to the next horizon, which is, if that's the third horizon, the second horizon is 10 years from now. So where do we need to be 10 years from now in order to be on track towards our BHAG? And I think, so, as you say, Kerrie, so often people, their BHAG is actually their 10-year when they first set it down. But it starts to become more tangible when you go, righto, well, where do we need to be 10 years from now to be on track to our big, hairy, audacious goal? And we don't need to worry about how we're going to get there, but it's really important to define the income and the profit and the return on assets managed and the size of the asset base and the team that we need or want to have 10 years from now, and some of those other key KPIs that we want to be hitting 10 years from now, to your point, Kerrie. So we've got a going concern that has momentum that can start delivering us toward our BHAG. All 10-year goal, what happens when families square that one away and get really clear on some of the more definitive elements that help them articulate what that needs to look like?
Yeah, I think it's really like when they're clear on the KPIs that they need their business to meet to reach their goals, it's really helpful from a business model perspective. So that's when you can do the work on, okay, well, this is where we want to be. We know where we are now because we've been doing our business model analysis or our benchmarking process through farm owners. And let's do some work with the analyst team now around what model is going to allow us to get there. That's just super powerful in terms of, and the real key importance of finding out what before you look at the how.
Yeah, it's a great point, Elle. And I think so often farming families start with this and they might be running 3 or 4 enterprises and they work out that they want to be world-class wool producers because that's what they're deeply passionate about and that might be the best use of their land type. And that's what really drives their economic engine. Then they can focus with real intent and simplify their business models and get confidence that that's going to be the profitable thing that's going to allow them move forward more quickly. And then to your point, Elle, it helps them really articulate a significant and lofty 10-year goal with the key metrics that are going to get them there well articulated. How important, Kerrie, is it that there's a balance of business and personal goals listed out within the 10-year construct?
Well, I suppose farming businesses are quite unique because a lot of the time you're living and breathing and your family's living and breathing within the business, on the business, very much in the business. So you have your personal goals and your business goals because they're so aligned in the way your workspace and your work environment. It's important to also have that within yourself and the business because really you're working on your business, in your business all the time. So there needs to be an alignment in those type of things. And if there isn't, it becomes very obvious, which is not a problem because then you can make some decisions around that. Yet having your personal goals and your business goals aligned, because again, it comes back down to those values. What do you really believe, who you are, how are you represented, all those type of things, your expectations, etc., all very much come through personally and within the business. So it's very important to have them both aligned.
Perfect. And I think a business, farm or other, is just a vehicle to give us what we want in life, isn't it? So, if it's 3 months holiday a year for the older generation because they've worked for 40 years and they've earned that right, and that is the 10-year goal or the 3-year goal or whatever it is, we've got to get those things down because, again, that focus us on setting up the team or setting up the resourcing or setting up the enterprise mix so that we can achieve that personal goal for those family members with the business that we have. Elle, what's your comment on 10-year, 3-year, and then breaking your 3-year down into 1-year goals?
Yeah, and just on the point that you were just making, Hutch, I think those personal or family goals or lifestyle related goals are often easier to see and visualize and think about, and they're often more meaningful. And so that's really important for driving us forward as well. And for other members of the family, whether they be in or out of the business, to be able to see that too. In terms of the breakdown, like the 10-year goal really then allows us to just then reverse engineer from there. So if we're going to be here by 10 years, we need to identify what KPIs we're meeting, like metrics from, a revenue profit perspective, but also what team do we need? What other resources do we need or infrastructure in place do we need? And then we just work backwards from there. So if we're reaching that by 10 years, what do we need by the 3-year mark? And then if we're reaching that by 3 years, what do we need at the 1-year mark from there?
Perfect. And just to speak to your point, I think so often as farming families, we've created jobs for ourselves where we are the resourcing and we work for the business. I think this is where we start to turn that round, where the business starts to work for us, because in your 3-year goals, absolutely, there should be 6 weeks holiday for all family members, or at least 4. Gosh, we give our employees for the risk we carry, maybe it should be more than that. But if it's a family trip to New Zealand or whatever, those things need to go into the 3-year goals so that we are turning the tide on the business and having it sort of starting to get shaped so that it delivers some of those key family and community and personal sort of milestones. If we don't get those in there, then there's every chance that they won't happen. Kerrie, what's your comment on making some of those family adventures, family memories, community goals sort of front and center in at least your 3-year goals?
It gives you something to aim for. And also, as Elle alluded to, is that you prepare your business to be able to sustain that or to be able to create that. So you look at your team, you look at your systems, you look at your revenue and profitability. So you're creating a business that allows you that choice and that freedom to be able to help the community, go and see the kids' sports, go on regular holidays, go overseas, do whatever you've been or would love to be able to do, because you're starting to create that business. So if it's on the goal and it's there, it's not just a wish. It's something that's written that you're desiring and that what you're working towards, you're creating a business to be allow for that to happen.
Perfect, Kerrie. Thank you. So the first question was, who are we? And they're our company standards. The second one is, what do we do? And that's our core focus. The third one is, where are we off to? Which is BHAG 10-year, 3-year and 1-year goals. The fourth question that our plan has to answer is, what will we and won't we do? And so it's been proven that businesses that plan in a quarterly rhythm achieve 7 times more in a year than businesses that plan annually. Often when we set down and like a New Year's resolution or an annual plan, it just gets lost in the busyness. But if you're having, and what we recommend to our listeners is ideally 2 days off farm once per year to set down your annual goals and to review what we've talked about and to realign around your 1-year goals. And that's an annual planning rhythm. But then a day off farm, ideally every quarter, to set down, to review the last quarter and then set down your rocks, your key priorities for the next quarter. Kerrie, can I just hand to you, how has moving to a quarterly planning rhythm, how have you seen that help our members when they start with us and they haven't done this, and then all of a sudden they're getting off farm and locked into their first planning meeting and then their quarterly planning meetings, and they're setting down the 2, 3 or 4 key strategic rocks per quarter that they're a way to make non-negotiable. If they set down 3 rocks, which are the key improvement priorities per quarter, and they do that every quarter for 12 months, there's 12 key improvements. 3 years, it's 36 key improvements. What do you see happen when people get that level of clarity around how they want to drive the business forward?
The momentum is amazing. And with that momentum, you start to see that this plan or these steps, and when you put them in place and action them, you actually start to move forward towards your goals. So you're creating this positive vibe within your business and yourself that doing these things are actually getting me closer. So it creates confidence. And that's really important in a business, is actually creating confidence. So it gives you clarity on what the steps are. And then as you achieve those steps, it's creating confidence within your business that we are moving forward. Our team is working, our plan is working, because we have a tendency of seeking what's not working. Whereas with this plan and being able to say, yes, we're doing this every quarter and celebrating that success, we're creating us looking forward and looking for the things that are working. And that's where we're going to be. It's like, this is working. We're getting towards our goals. How exciting.
Thanks, Kerrie. And Elle, same question for you. What do you see happen when our members really get locked in on that rhythm of 2 days annual planning and then quarterly planning, and then really focusing in on those key quarterly rocks?
The big ticket items that are going to make the most difference from a return on investment are actually being ticked off. It's so easy for us to get stuck in the operations. Like, we're all running businesses and usually involved in the operations as well as alongside wanting to work on the strategic direction of our business. It's actually going to change the trajectory or grow the trajectory of our businesses. And so, yeah, the momentum is just exponential. And like Kerrie was saying, the energy that then comes from that and the opportunities that people are open to and that present themselves then is really, yeah, it's really incredible to watch from the sidelines in our roles.
And we share and help our members nail the agendas for each of those sessions. Elle, the key to implementation is the weekly meeting that makes sure week on week over the 12 weeks of a quarter that there is implementation around those key strategic priorities, those rocks. How's the weekly meeting helping? And how do you see that regular accountability within the business help drive implementation?
Yeah, it's really important because, again, like, how quickly can a week go on the farm? Quickly can you be doing operational work? So even that quick check-in, even if it's only 15 minutes, touching base on, these are our 90-day rocks. Where are we up to? This is when we said we'd do this, and this is who's responsible, and just checking in on what is our next step on this week and making sure things are on track. It makes absolutely all the difference. The more regularly people are interacting with their business plan, and, checking in on that accountability absolutely drives the momentum.
Thanks, Elle. And Kerrie, 2 questions. How does it help aligning your employed team, having them part of the quarterly and the weekly communication rhythm? Second part to that is, when is the right time to bring employed team members into those 2 really important conversations?
So it very much sets the rhythm, and in terms of the rhythm within the business, in terms of communication. As alluded to before, that communication is so important. If there's gaps, then something gets filled from wherever that person's from. However, if there's a very clear plan, everyone is on the same page, there's no confusion, there's no, oh, what ifs, or I'll just go and do something because that's what I feel like I'm doing. It's all very focused and very intentional, which gets the momentum happening.
When's the right time to bring team members into the quarterly and even the annual, but certainly the weekly planning rhythm?
So it really depends on, first, the role of the team member in regards to where they sit on the organisational chart or their accountability chart. So are they sitting in senior management team part component on a seat, or are they, have someone they're responsible to report to? In terms of every team member, we in terms of operationals, absolutely, the operational plan or the operational calendar, everyone is very much a part of. So because everyone's on the same page. In regards to the strategic elements, again, it depends on what seat they're sitting in your business. So in terms of senior management or not. So there's a lot of confusion in regards to strategy. So operational is something that you do every weekly, monthly, fortnightly, every 12 months. Whereas a strategy is something that you do once and it has a long-term impact. So sometimes some team members may not need to know the actual strategy and the long-term impact, yet you can break that down for them, going, well, you can still give them the goal or the intention of that role or that task they're doing. However, they may not need to see the big picture just yet always give them the opportunity. If they would like to know the big picture and the intention, then absolutely. It really depends, because every team member is going to be a little bit different. Their motivation, their inspiration, what they need is going to be different. So just be really conscious of what they need, but get them on board as quickly as possible so that everyone's heading in the right direction.
I think it's a great point, Kerrie. I think what's most important is that the key decision makers in the business get into and aligned to and on with this planning rhythm first. And then as soon as you've got the leaders in the business engaged, enrolled and working to the rhythm, then absolutely start to bring key team members in, at least on a part of the annual planning meeting, give them visibility around the longer term goals and the other things we've mentioned. And then absolutely in the quarterly and the weekly meetings, and you watch what happens in terms of team alignment and momentum when that happens. And you've got many minds, as you say, Elle, focused on one common plan. The fifth part and the fifth question that we've got to answer is what's in our way, which is our brick list. Elle, can I throw to you to explain what a brick list is?
Yeah. So a brick is anything undone. So it is all of those jobs often sitting in our head. They might be strategic, like as in they might be focused on future direction, driving profit in the farm business, or they might be out in the paddock. It's that gate that needs fixing. It's the fence that needs restraining, all those little things. It's that bit that needs clearing up. It's that old house that needs demolishing. All of those things that whirl around in our head. And the purpose of getting down our brick list is to get it out of our head and down and away. And then for us to be able to prioritize, do we actually need to focus on this right now? Well, how soon does this need to be sorted? And having some time to be able to get through those bricks and become unstuck, basically, so we can focus where we need to focus.
Yeah, great comment, Elle. Kerrie, what's your experience of seeing members write a comprehensive brick list, all the stuff yet to do or left undone, as Elle says, getting that into the plan and onto paper and then having it prioritized by order of importance? What happens in terms of freeing up people's heads and getting them even more focused when they get that squared away?
Well, it creates space. It dulls the noise because we have so many ideas and so many projects on, especially in a farm. As alluded before, we look for the things that aren't done or things that aren't working. Having them all listed down in front of you, now it gives you that clarity because you're not going to forget them because they're now written down, and then you can prioritize them. And it's easy to sometimes do tasks that aren't important. So when you actually have them all written down and prioritized, then you may actually have to go and do those jobs that are quite difficult and you've been putting off, yet because they're listed and prioritized now, you go, if I go and do this, then this, and this could happen. So it gives you that sort of clarity in regards to some of these jobs I really don't want to do, but I know that they're going to be really important if I do it. And instead of having them rolling around your head and you're avoiding them or just don't want to do them, then when they're written down, you go, okay, they're there. We've made a plan on how to do it, when to do it. Let's get it done.
Perfect, Kerrie. And Elle, again, when you see members, and it might take them a little while to lock this in, but once they get real momentum around everything we've talked about, nailing their plan, locking in that rhythm, and then moving through, squaring away some of the bricks on their brick list, what sort of results do you start to see people and see teams getting?
I think, that all of it creates momentum, but it's that clarity and focus and the ability to understand what needs to be prioritized, what's going to most move the needle forward. Like Kerrie said, what is my next key step? And being able to implement on that because you're really clear on how your time needs to be prioritized. And particularly with the bricks list, like that can be one of the most powerful things to do is actually getting out of your head and letting go to create the space so that you actually can think creatively, strategically, and have that time and headspace for that.
Yeah, we call it a brick list because they weigh you down, don't they? If they're in your head and you haven't got them on paper, you're carrying them around wherever you go. And if you were to climb a mountain and you had a backpack full of bricks, of course, the first thing that you'd do would be to empty the backpack and get rid of the bricks and make the walk a whole lot easier. And it's absolutely that, isn't it? That it can be exhausting and your head can be full if you're walking around with a list of things. So if you only get one thing from this session, team, I'd just encourage you to take a moment to stop and write down what are all the business and personal things that are currently in my head that are tasks that are left undone, or they're things that are taking up energy for me. If you can get those on paper and get them prioritized and start moving through, just chipping away at that list, it can really clear your head to be able to think more clearly and think more strategically. Kerrie, would you say that's a fair comment?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just having some clarity on how and when and what you need to be able to do just gives you that confidence that you can. And I think that's where the brick list becomes so important, because it actually sort of starts to slow down the overwhelm, the chaos. It's all out and it's now being prioritized. It's now worked out, what resources do I need? What team do I need? When is it really imperative that I get this done? So it just gives you those clear steps. It's just breaking down a really big, massive overwhelm into actionable steps.
Thank you both. You both make amazing business coaches supporting our members. Accountability around implementation on the plan is my last question, really. It can be very hard for me to hold myself accountable, whether it's trying to improve my golf swing or succeed in business or whatever it is, my health or whatever. What's it like to be a coach and to have that privilege that you mentioned of holding people accountable to implementing on their plan? And what impact do you see it having? Elle, can I ask you to speak to that first?
Well, we all need a coach. That's the reality. And I think near impossible to coach your family. So it's important that it's someone from outside the business and outside your family. And it's an absolute privilege. I'm not always going to be asking the questions that people want me to ask, or, I mightn't be the person that they want to follow up with them that day if they haven't done what they said in terms of their plan. But I think that's the point, is that we're all going to set down a plan and we're all going to have times where it's hard to adhere to that plan. And so having that point of contact to be able to check in with, well, do we need to reprioritize things? How's things going? And then, seeing the progress when people have actually implemented on that from that engagement. Yeah, it's a real privilege.
Thanks, Elle. And it's a great point that it's impossible really to hold ourselves, and it's really hard to hold our families accountable. I love the concept that being a coach is just like being the unreasonable friend. It's asking questions that need to be asked, not necessarily the nice ones that people want to be asked, but that's what sees people improve is having a coach or having that unreasonable friend ask the unreasonable questions. Kerrie, you've had members graduate through our 3-year program, and you've got to stand on stage and see them graduate and hear what they managed to achieve over their time on the 3-year Platinum Mastermind program. What makes you feel proud about the impact that coaching and accountability can have on people's success?
Well, as you said, Hutch, you're there to maybe call out or question the lack of momentum, or possibly highlight perfectionism, self-sabotage, denial, all those type of really challenging moments. You get to actually put people in that position, because in the uncomfortable is where the growth is. Because when you become really uncomfortable, you want to change that circumstance. So being accountability coach is being able to put people in that position, and it's purely out of love. It's purely out of wanting to know that this is the beautiful thing about coaching, is that you can see people's success before they can. You can see what they're capable before they can. So you're guiding them to get to where you know that they can get. So it's just building that confidence. And sometimes the confidence comes in an uncomfortable situation. So when you see people really embracing that process and really leaning in and sitting in that uncomfortable, that's where the growth is. That's where the momentum becomes really, the trajectory just improves dramatically. And 1 minute they're looking at their 3-year goals, the next minute they're looking at their 10-year goals and going, I've achieved it. I've done them. That's amazing. And they've all said it's the minute they were vulnerable enough, the minute that they allowed themselves to be really challenged, that the momentum started, because the fear disappears. They're able to ask for assistance. They're able to test and try something. And they know that if they get it wrong, or if it's a decision that didn't work well, they learn. It's not a failure, it's a success, because they had the opportunity to learn. And when you really embrace that, that's when the wheel starts to spin.
Perfect, Kerrie. Thank you. You're quite right. It is a real privilege to coach farming families across Australia and New Zealand, and to see our team of, gosh, I don't even know, it'd be rude for me to even guess, but I think we're about a team of 15 coaches and 7 or 8 analysts now working with our members, and to see where our members arrive to, both at their 3-year graduation from Platinum Mastermind, but then beyond that through alumni, for being disciplined and getting that support around these constructs. It can be a game changer. Thank you both for your insights. Thank you for sharing your experience at implementing this sort of 2-page plan into your business, and really appreciate your openness and your comments and reflections. Elle, have you got a final comment for us?
Yeah, I think for me, the business plan takes the control back. Like you were saying before, Hutch, like so often we're working for our businesses and we're not getting the business working for us. And the focus is on price taking and, lots of sort of ideologies and things that are outside of our control. And the business plan really, puts the control back in your hands, and you can see clearly where you're going and continuously making tweaks to your model to ensure that you'll get there.
Perfect, Elle. Well done to you and Tom for all that you've achieved, and thank you so much for your comments.
Thanks for having me.
Kerrie, a final comment?
I reiterate from Elle in terms of that, having that 2-page business plan, just simply it gives you clarity, and with clarity comes confidence. And when you've got confidence in your business and your family and where you're headed, you can achieve anything.
What a great way to finish, Kerrie. Thanks so much. And again, well done to you and Smithy on all you continue to achieve. And thank you both so much for your impact across our community with our members.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hutch.
Elle, Kerrie, thanks so much. So many compelling insights. It is incredible to see over 350 farming businesses moving through our Platinum Mastermind program, all focused on a 2-page plan and all being held accountable by our coaching team to implement incredibly strongly. A cool plan without implementation is interesting, but it's not going to get you results. And so I hope you found today really helpful to uncover the 5 questions that your strategic plan needs to answer, and just the power of it in aligning families and farm teams to a common direction. If you'd like to learn more or get our help around this, book a discovery call with us. We'll share the details in the show notes, and let's explore how FOA can support your farm and family. Our 2-day Top Producers event is coming up. We'd love to see you attend that. And also our short course called Take Control goes deep into this and gives you all you need to help you to take control of your time and take control of your business through good planning. So reach out if you'd like more information about that short course. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Elle and Kerrie, and to our coaching team. Thank you so much for how you turn up to our members, how you help them set down really strong strategic plans, and how you hold them accountable to high performance. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and bye for now.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us, or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.